Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm chairing this discussion and leading the questions and leading the talk. And first of all, let me congratulate you both on beautiful Burnout. I saw it the other night. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'll be really fascinated to know how it came about. But I thought perhaps first we should just talk a little bit about the National Theatre of Scotland, because you have no concrete home, and I think this must free you up rather a lot. Would you like to just give us a bit of background on that?
Yeah, thank you. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having us back in New Zealand and in Wellington. We're thrilled and honoured to be here for our second visit. I'll talk very briefly of kind of a thumbnail sketch of the history of the company, because we sound quite old and venerable, doesn't it? National Theatre sounds very rather grand. And the company's only 6 years old. We did our first shows in February 2006, and the company really came about directly as a response, I think, by the artistic community to devolution in Scotland, which was that movement was been happening for a long time, but through the late 90s it was pretty clear it was going to happen, and there would be a devolved Scottish Parliament and a Scottish government. And when you looked around at the culture scene in Scotland, there was an existing Scottish opera company, there was an existing Scottish ballet company, we had our national orchestras, we had our galleries. The one thing that we didn't have was a national theatre. And it became pretty clear that the politicians would target that, and the theatrical community decided that the worst thing that could happen would be that the politicians should decide what our national theatre should be. So the practitioners kind of took charge and came up with this model of a national theatre that would not be based in any one city or in any one building, and that model kind of was accepted by the government, in fairness to them, and that came to fruition. And I think the key point in what the company has emerged was with the appointment of our first artistic director and chief executive, who is this extraordinary woman called Vicky Featherstone, who's previously run Payne's Plough, which was a new writing company in England. So it was an incredibly bold decision, actually, for the Scots to appoint a young English woman who was kind of quite red rag to a Scottish bull. But Vicky is such a force of nature that she just kind of wins everybody over anyway. And the key thing about Vicky was that she's a director. She directs theatre shows. So there was no danger of this new company becoming a quasi-arts council which just gave out money to other companies. What it did was make its own work. But what we do is, somebody coined the expression, I think it was one of our press people early on, this notion of a theatre without walls. And what we do is we make theatre wherever and whenever we can, and we make a lot of it. We generate around 20 productions a year, of all different scales and all different ranges. This week, I was trying to think what we're doing at the present moment. So we have our co-production with Frantic Assembly, Beautiful Burnout, happening here. In Scotland, we're doing a kind of large-scale tour of a comedy based on the film The Wicker Man, if anybody knows that great Scottish classic film, which is fun, and playing large theatres in Scotland. We have a schools and community tour of a piece with young men touring around schools. We're about to go into rehearsal for a very quick verbatim piece based on the crisis in British journalism. Yeah. And the great thing about not having to build it is that we can do all of those things. Our scheduling is not based on what's going to be in the big space, what's in the middle space, what's in the little space. It's like, what are we going to do and when are we going to do it? There are small drawbacks. Sometimes when we do want to work in conventional theatres, we have to work with the schedules of other companies and other people, but the joy of it much beats the misery of it, I think. And a show like Beautiful Burnout is a great example of how we can work with friends and colleagues, and Scott